Hi, this is Kevin Trainer. Welcome to my introductory lecture for um, Introduction to Application Development, INFOST 350. And this is for section 201, which is the online section. And here we are. This is the first day of the semester. It's January 22nd. And I apologize for being a little bit slow to get the course information up in the current semester. There have been a lot of factors. Primarily, I got pretty sick over the semester break and not really completely back up to speed, but mostly. So it's just taken a long time to get everything out, and I would have liked to have it in your hands earlier, and I apologize for the delay. The purpose of this video is kind of a welcome lecture in which I'm going to talk about the course in you and expectations. We'll review the syllabus and we'll review the weekly schedule. Okay? And this is what I typically do in a first day of a face-to-face class. First of all, if you haven't found your way to the weekly schedule, it's an application that I use that holds really all the content for the course. Okay? I realize I could have done that on the Canvas system, but the system that I use, which I call Course Info, is a pretty straightforward web application that has, for each course, let's kind of show where we are. For each course, we have an index page. So this is the index page. And on your Canvas site, you should have a link to the index page for our course. Okay? And the URL for ours is up here. Okay, and this is the kind of thing that you're going to want to bookmark because you're going to want to come back here. And the rest of the site is a weekly schedule page for each week. So from the index page, you can see the week numbers. It may not be obvious to you, but the numbers are the links to get to the weekly schedule pages. So to get to page 1, you click on 1. Okay, and we'll come to a weekly schedule page. Now, I'd like to claim that I have the greatest applications of all times, but I don't. And this is a kind of a static website. It's one that I generate from a very big XML document. And because it, by the time the web server gets its hands on it, it appears to be a static website. Some browsers are not very good at automatically for checking for new versions of the pages. So here we're on week 1. Okay. What I want you to do every time you come to a schedule page is to refresh the page. Okay? Now, one of these days, I'm going to write a new version of this application, and it's going to generate these pages dynamically on the fly. And browsers are better at not caching generated pages than they are with not caching pages that they think are static pages. Okay? The browsers, it's the absolute worst. This is the one I'm showing you, Safari. Okay? Now, if you if you're a web person and you go and you look at the source code for these pages, there is every imaginable hint to tell the browser not to cache the page. And there's a fair amount of JavaScript here and there encouraging it to reload the page. But for instance, in the Safari browser, it doesn't always reload the page. So whenever you go to a new page, like we're on week 1, that's fine. If you go to week 2, refresh that one too. And any change I've made is going to show up. Okay. The last thing you want to do is to be looking at a schedule page that is some old version artifact. It doesn't really even exist anymore except in the cache of your browser. Okay, so the weekly schedule is pretty straightforward. There's one page per week of our semester. So if we go back to the index page, we'll see our semester is 17 weeks long. Okay, and we're now in week 1. Okay, what are various weeks? Well, we've seen week 1, that's kind of a normal week. It's a short one because we don't start till Tuesday. We normally start on Monday and we finish on Sunday. Okay. Now, what are the odd weeks? Well, week 9, I believe, is spring break week. Okay. So there's just some information there that says we're not doing anything. We're going to the beach. Okay. And if we go down to week 17, even though that's an official week of the semester, that's exam week and graduation. And we don't have exams in this course. And we're going to be done long before graduation. So we don't do anything in week 17. So the work that we do is in weeks 1 through 8, in weeks 10 through 16. Okay, and those are about 2 halves of a semester. That works very well. All right. So when we come to a week, just open the schedule and it will answer the question, what's happening this week in our course? Now you might say, well, doesn't Canvas have that kind of feature? Well, it kind of does. Okay. I teach at 2 universities and I've been using this approach for, I think, about 6 years now. And so the official tools are starting to catch up. But what's in a typical week for us? Well, the week normally would start on a Monday. This one didn't because it was a holiday. It normally ends at the end of Sunday. Okay. Because this is an online course, the big deal is what's due for the week. Okay. So on Sunday, we have a weekly assignments deadline. You're supposed to get all of your work done by 11:55 p.m. on Sunday night. Okay, so what is that work? Well, there's some readings to do, recordings to play, and some class participation assignments to do. In this case, it will be posting to one of the forums on Canvas. Okay. Sometimes we'll have additional deadlines, even if they're on the exact same date and time, to allow me to separate normal coursework from, in this case, computing setup. Okay, so the other thing that you need to do this week, in addition to say the weekly assignments deadline, has you playing the welcome lecture, reading the syllabus, I have a tutorial video for you to play here. We have a lot of uh, YouTube videos for you to play. And as you can already tell, the most uh, the most effective way for me to speak is probably slower than the speed at which you might want to listen. And if you play this tips on playing Kevin's YouTube videos, I show you the settings on YouTube that you're able to use to speed up the playback. You can speed it up all the way up to 2 times the original rate, maybe higher, maybe 2.25. When I listen to myself, I usually listen at 1.5 to 2. Now that's because I know what I'm saying. Okay, so I'm not surprised at anything that comes out of my mouth. So maybe I can play faster than you can, but play the tips video. You'll learn how to control that part of YouTube, and you also get the idea that I want you to be kind of in control. Okay. Uh, this is the lecture video. When I get done, this is going to be turned into a proper link so you can play this. And we want you to introduce yourself um, on the forum. In terms of computing setup, okay, even though students at SOAS can technically use SOAS computers in order to do their course work, you're going to find it easiest if you have a computer to use of your own, and probably ideally a laptop, although there's nothing that says in an online course that a laptop is a big advantage over a desktop, other than you can take it wherever you want to work on your coursework. So you can work on some at lunchtime at work. Um, you can work on it at home. You can work on it at the library. You can do all that stuff. Um, Ideally, we want you to be using a computer that runs either Windows 10 or a recent release of Mac OS. Can you use a Linux computer? Yeah, you can, but the support for those are pretty spotty. Okay, so I'm not going to recommend that you do that. And there are 2 tools that we're going to be working with when we begin to program, which is next week. One of them is Anaconda, and the other is PyCharm Professional. And there are some instructions here about what to install, and then there are tutorial videos to play to teach you, to show you how to install. One for Windows 10, one for Mac OS. And that's true for the Anaconda and for the PyCharm Professional. These were done back in the fall, so they're pretty current. And I expect that your experience should be pretty close to what you see in the tutorials. Okay? So what's coming after that? Well, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot a big part of what happens each week. I'm actually recording this on Tuesday evening. So we just had a couple of hours ago, we just had our online lab session. And I think there are about 6 people who came, and we all introduced ourselves, and um, we talked about questions that people had. I gave out of a little bit of a preview of what's in this recording. But this is the time where you can come and get help with understanding solutions that we've shown for prior assignments. Okay, at the end of each week, right after you hand in your solutions, I publish my solutions. And so you can see what the right answers are. But a lot of times, seeing what the right answers are and knowing why and why some kind of a different approach that maybe you took is um, uh, maybe it's an equal approach, maybe it's a better approach, maybe it's a worse approach. Okay. We can certainly, in the beginning of these weekly online lab sessions, we can talk to prior assignments in that kind of way. Um, the next thing is that we typically have some coding assignment for the current week. In week one, we're just getting our technology installed and all that kind of stuff. Um, but we get questions from people who are stuck on some part of the assignment. They just they're not getting it. Typically, there's a tutorial that goes for each of the assignments, so that's certainly a lot of coaching. But it doesn't always work, and so you can get help at online office hours. You can also get uh, you can also get help through our help desk portal that we have for the course. Okay, so that's what the Tuesday sessions are about. They're optional. It's an optional session. Um, some people come to all of them religiously. They like not only to get answers to their questions, but they want to hear what's on other people's minds. And they want to make a comment or two. So they're fun, and I enjoy them a lot. Okay, they're an optional part of the course. We don't record them. I recorded them in the very early days of doing these things, and I found that um, it kind of made people shy. Okay, so um, in in order to make it a better optional experience for those who come, we don't record them. So if you come and you get some help or you get some insight, that's great, and you don't feel that you're on display, that we're recording you for posterity. If you aren't able to make it, well, then that's okay too. We understand. There's some people who can't make any of these because they have a conflicting obligation. Sometimes it's work, sometimes it's children, sometimes it's uh, other learning experiences. All those things are fine. Okay? We can, through our help desk, you can set up times for those of us who are working on the teaching of the course. I'm the instructor, and Julie Lisser is the TA. And we can arrange times to meet with you on the same GoToMeeting platform and help you solve problems. And also, we solve a lot of problems just in conversations over the help desk back and forth. This is especially true because a lot of people get stuck on the same stuff. So when you show us your code, um, a lot of time the light bulb goes off in our mind. Oh, uh, they've got problem 3 here, and we know how to fix that. Okay, so both Julie and I try our best to stay on top of the requests that come into the help desk, and we want you we want you to feel free to call on us to help you when you've got a question or you're stuck or you've got some kind of problem. Okay, so that was week 1. And then in week 2, it's a more typical week. Okay. We have an assignment that's due. So we're covering from the Zell textbooks. We've got 2 textbooks. We've got the Zell book, which is our primary text. That's the printed book. And we've got the Severance book. That's our, for the most part, that's a backup text. Okay, although there are, I think, 2 chapters that we do from the Severance book, and for those weeks, it becomes the primary text. When we go over the syllabus, you'll see I want you to buy a printed copy. Well, it could be an electronic copy. I want you to buy a copy of the Zell text. The Severance text is available free in several formats, and I think that's just fine. I wouldn't go buy a printed copy of the Severance text. If you really want to, well, you certainly can. I don't think I ever have. So we usually have some reading. Okay. There's typically a lecture video for each of the chapters that we're going to cover. Okay, so this is a typical undergraduate course where we have a lecture for each unit we cover. In the in the lecture, I use the slides from the book. So I make those available under other resources. And the code examples from the Zell chapters are here. You can download them from the internet, but I made them easy for you to get. Okay. So these are the examples that are in the chapters themselves. And then typically we have a coding assignment. We have somewhere between 2 and 4 exercises in a typical week. Okay, and it depends on how big they are, how early the semester is. So we have instructions. Okay, and you can see, well, there's a first exercise, there's a second exercise. Okay, so that 2 for the first week. And what can I say? I expect you to follow the directions very particularly. Programming is a very detail-oriented activity. So things, the names of things should be exactly the name that we ask for, to the letter, including the case, and underscores and periods and all those kinds of things. We try to make it pretty clear about what rules we want you to follow. Okay. We always expect you to test your program, and for the most part, all the way through the course, there is a tutorial video to be played in which I show you me solving a very similar problem to the one that you're going to do. And then what I expect you to do is to go and create the program to your problem, which is usually pretty much a parallel to the one that I just did. Okay? And then we go like that. Okay? Now, one of the interesting things is that there's just lots of details. And if you follow the tutorials, I pretty much show you, if you listen to me, I'm talking about which of the details are important. And if you follow along and look, you can see how to do what we want you to do. Again, the tutorials are usually parallel activities to the ones that you're going to do. Okay? All right. Now we just go along week to week to week to week. For most of the course, uh, we have these weekly coding assignments. And how long they're going to take you is really, it's a question of how much of a natural you are at this, whether you've ever had any program experience before. If you don't have any program experience before, it could be pretty time consuming. Okay? Over time, it's going to get easier. Okay? We've really set this course up so that if you've never had a programming course before, never mind a Python programming course, you should be able to follow along and do it. It'll probably take you more time than a person who's already taken another Python course somewhere. But yeah, you should be able to do it even if you're a complete newbie. Okay? Now we're going to follow along through these uh, weeks, and it's pretty much one week after the next until we get to towards the end of the course. Due in week 16 is this thing called the final project. And the final project is kind of like a big coding assignment. It's it really ties together all the things that we've learned. Um, it's got 4 parts. It's got 4 exercises in it. They're probably bigger than your typical weekly homework exercises, but they relate to things that we've learned throughout the course. Okay, and we have 3 weeks at the end of the course for you to work on this. So week number 16 is the week that you work on it and hand it in on Thursday night. Week number 15, there's no other work. You're just working on the final project. And week number 14, there's no other work. You're just working on the final project. And we're here to help. Okay? There's 3 weeks that we're working on the final project. We have our online lab sessions. So you should be able to attend them. And we're going to be monitoring the help desk pretty closely. So we do expect that for most of you, that you'll have problems from time to time that you can't solve. Okay? That's all right. Uh, we're here to help. All right? So that's it. So we've got about 10-ish weekly coding assignments, and then we've got the final project, which is the big biggie. Okay? So, that said, that's all I'm going to say to go through the schedule. I can't say enough about when you come to a new page in the schedule, refreshing your browser. Okay? I apologize that this isn't really as good of a technological solution as I'd like to have. So do as I say, not as I do. But I just have not been able to find the time to replace this in, as quickly as I would have liked to. All right. All right. So, where's the syllabus? Well, the syllabus was back in week 1. Okay, that's because we're going to cover it in this lecture. So I'm gonna download that file, and I'm gonna open it up right here as a PDF, so you can see the whole thing. That didn't work at all. Let me try again. Okay, this is looking better. All right, so let's see what we can do. It's called Introduction to Application Development. It's our programming course. It's now spring 2019. You're in section 201. It's a 3 credit course. It's an online course. Okay. Uh, Kevin Trainer is me. I'm the instructor. I'm on campus somewhere between 2 and 3 days a week. I live in the greater Chicago area, and I commute to Milwaukee. So my on-campus classes are on Monday and Wednesday, and I'm usually around campus from about 8:30 a.m. till um, uh, 2 p.m. No, 1:30 p.m. in the current semester. Um, and I'm in room 3472 in the heart of the SOAS department. Okay. If you'd like to set up an appointment with me either on campus or using the GoToMeeting platform, use this use this help desk option that I'm going to be showing you in a minute. Julie Lisser is helping out as the TA. She graduated from the MSIM program last semester, and so she's just kind of hanging around to help me with this course. She and I collaborated on teaching 2 sections of this exact same course online in the fall, and it went very well. So we're looking forward to being able to help just 1 section full of students in Python. Um, the next part here, uh, I have created a service desk application that has it's based on a project called Jira Service Desk. And there's a service desk for each course that I teach and then a couple of others. And so if you want general information about this, the Jira Service Desks, click on the link for iCourse Jira Service Desk. And you'll go to the page for it. And it kind of explains the rationale, explains how to get started, and it has a list of these service desk portals for the courses I'm teaching in the current semester. Plus, I have one for former students who are seeking recommendations and any other thing that comes up where students, either current or prospective or prior students, want to contact me with. I have a list of these service desk portals for my UWM students. I also teach part-time at the University of Illinois, and I have a list of their courses and things down there. So you ought to be able to find your way to the course in your case, INFOST 350, and click on through. If I click on through, because the portal, because the Jira Service Desk server knows me, I've already been logged in today. I just went right to the portal page for INFOST 350. And if in fact it doesn't know you yet, either from a previous course that you took with me, or, well, that would be the only way that you would be known, well, then you're going to have to set up an account. It's pretty easy to do. So if in fact you're not logged in and he doesn't know who you are, you'll get a login page with the classic kind of a link that says, um, you know, not registered yet, click here. And you go through a back and forth, you give it um, your UWM email address, um, and a couple of other things. You set up a password and that kind of stuff, and uh, you're in. What's really helpful for us is that when you post a request, which is either a question or a problem, right? It shows up in the course that you're in. And that allows a couple things to happen. One is that you'd be surprised how many people used to send me email and they wouldn't even say what course they were in. Often they wouldn't even say what university they were from. And the nature of my email client is it doesn't say. It doesn't say this came from UWM. This came from the University of Illinois. So it's like, hi, Kevin, this is Fred. I'm in your class. I've got a problem with the next assignment. Okay, already I know less than nothing. So, a couple of things that we try to do here is that one, when you come in here and you raise a request, well, you can pick one of these request types. So the defined ones are permission to register for the course, a course question, an infrastructure problem or report, course related IT help, an individual meeting request. For most people, that's going to be on GoToMeeting with me, but um, some people who are on campus, we can find a time when I'm uh, I'm on campus and they're on campus too. If you think you qualify for a deadline extension, you can use that. If you think you qualify to have your assignment regraded or it really hasn't been graded because you handed in late and we missed it, you can put in a regrading request. And then we have the ubiquitous other issue. So let's say I picked other issue. I'd come in here. Uh, and of course, when you're logged in, it knows who you are. Okay. And you have a summary, a description. You have the description, which is like the email body, and there's a place where you can attach files. Okay. The really nice thing is if you're having a problem with your program, either take that Python file or take the whole PyCharm project and zip it up and just attach it to your request. What I often do is I just take the project or I take the program and I run it and I see what I get. Okay. And I go, oh, yeah, something's broken here. And it gives me a context to give you some feedback. And Julie does this too. We'll say, on line number 24, yeah, you've got such and such a problem. On line number 37, it looks like you have this other problem. Why don't you fix those and let us know how it turns out? Okay, so it's a really great way to do that. And of course, you fill all this out and you create the request. Once you create a request, there's a lot of back and forth using email from the server. So the server will send you an email to say, hey, we got your request, we're on it. If we put a comment on your request, it'll send you a copy of it in your email. Um, it's possible to take the emails that come from the server and just reply to them. Okay, we didn't have this quite set up that way in the fall semester, but I think we've got all the kinks out of it at this point. Um, so um, you you have the option once we have a request open of logging into the portal and using the graphical user interface here. Or if there's just a quick email reply, you can just hit reply and type in some stuff. Oh, I've already solved this. Thanks for your help. Send. Okay. So, admittedly, there's a little more work here than using plain old email. But this allows Julie and I to work as a team to help you. It even gives us the opportunity to share comments back and forth internally before we figure out um, what we want to do and who we want to respond to you. So um, we really feel that it helps us do a good job. So please invest the time to get set up on this because it's worth doing. There's a link here for the Request Center portal for this course. That again will take you to the same spot. Okay, that might be something you would want to bookmark. Okay, as I mentioned, individual meetings, just send a request and we'll set something up. Okay. If you have a thing that you need to discuss with us that's confidential and you don't want to put it on a help desk, well, just put the request on the help desk that you have a confidential issue that you need to talk about offline, and that's okay. We'll talk about it offline, and then we'll talk confidential. Okay. Online lab sessions already talked about. The description of the course. This is a first programming course in Python, and it is uses Python 3, which is the newest version of Python. We really cover I think all the things that the beginner needs to know to be a decent beginning Python programmer. Um, we take a rigorous approach and we offer a lot of help. Okay. Now the amount of help that we're going to offer is going to evolve over the course. In the very beginning, you're learning everything. You're learning the syntax of the language. You're using how to use PyCharm. You're just using everything. So we're going to give you a tremendous amount of help in the beginning. By the end of the course, we'd like you to be a little more independent. And so for the final project, we do give you some help. We do give you some hints. But it's come a long way since the beginning of the course. So we were really going to try to kind of emphasize your evolution as a person who knows the Python language, as a person who knows how to identify the problem to be solved and a method to solve it, and a person who has to know how to design the program that's going to solve it. So again, a lot of help at the very beginning, and maybe less and less over time. So we're trying to encourage you to be a lot more independent by the end of the course than you are in week one. So course outcomes: explain fundamental programming concepts, create working application logic to conduct basic tasks using a programming language, in this case Python. 3, verbally discuss and explain code and application logic to other students. You should definitely be able to do all those things. What are the methods that we learn, that we cover, that we use? Well, reading. We even have a secondary text. So this gives, especially beginners, the opportunity for a typical week. We'll have the required reading, and then we'll have the optional reading from the other textbook. And for people who can benefit from kind of hearing it explained in two different ways and two different sets of examples, here's your opportunity to get the benefit of that. Recorded lectures and tutorials will be kind of like this. Text-based online discussion via DTOL forums. We've got two forum posts that are mandatory. In week 1, we're expecting you to introduce yourself. In week 10, we're expecting you to start a discussion about where you'd want to go with Python and what other kind of things you'd like to learn about. We're going to have you do that. And of course, it says D2L forums, but we're on the Canvas now. So I really meant Canvas forums. Well, I've already talked about the online lab sessions. Again, these are optional, but try to come by when you can. Okay, and you'll get a feeling for it, and you'll get the feeling for it, what you get out of it, and then you get to decide. And designing, coding, and testing Python programs. This is a lot of doing. Okay, there's no quizzes in this course. There's no midterm exam. There's no final exam. But there's one heck of a lot of programming. And so to be a programmer, you need to program. You need to think like a programmer. You need to be able to design a program. You need to be able to code it. You need to be able to test it effectively. And we really emphasize all those things. Now, how much time is this going to take you? Well, we say that we think it's going to be in the typical 144-hour range that it would take for a 3-credit course. I'm going to be honest with you and say this is going to be pretty variable, okay? If you read the optional readings each week, well, that's going to double the reading time, okay? If you're finding that helpful, though, it'll be time well spent. Also, just how long is it going to take you to do the programming and the testing and the debugging? Highly variable. Some people will already have experience, okay? It's going to be pretty straightforward for them. They're probably going to undershoot the time estimates here. For other people who are just getting their sea legs, it might take considerably more. That's just the nature of this kind of activity. Okay. Some people will need no help. Some people will need a little bit of help from us. Some people will need a lot of help. Okay. We expect there to be differences here. So you should expect there to be differences as well. Okay, the two texts, we've got the Zell text, that's the main text. It's the 3rd edition of the Zell Python book. It's a pretty new book. It's a good book. Problems that he had in the 2nd edition are all patched up. I like the book a lot. Okay, so we use that as the main book. I'm expecting you to buy a copy. It's available through the university virtual bookstore. It's available from the publisher. It's available from Amazon. It's a widely available book. The Severance book is actually going to be our primary text for 2 of the weeks. So for 2 of the weeks, they are topics where I I think that the severance approach is the better approach for us to learn. Um, Apart from that, we're going to be using this as a supplemental text. Okay. Again, as I mentioned before, I don't really recommend that you purchase a copy, although I'm sure the author would love you to do that. He's been offering free copies of this all along. He teaches at, I think, the Michigan High School. He's an information science guy. He's an high school guy, very generous, and has a point of view. I think it's pretty sympathetic to ours. But unless you have a good reason, just use one of the electronic formats. Okay. Technology requirements. I already kind of talked about this when I went through the schedule. Um, you should have your own computer. It is possible to do this on the SOAS computers, but it's going to be easier to do it on your own. You need a computer that runs either recent Windows 10 or a recent Mac OS. Don't mess with the Linux client computers. They're not worth the headache. Um, Two big things that we're going to be using. We're going to be using Anaconda to control the builds of the Python packages that we're going to be using. And we're going to be using an integrated development environment called PyCharm Professional, which is available for free to students at the university. Um, and we've got some instructions on how to get that and install it, and some tutorials for all that's in the weekly schedule. Here's a link to our weekly schedule. Okay. Uh, the readings are something you should really do. Okay. I find for me that first I would do the readings and then I would play the lecture. Okay. If it works for you better the other way around, I don't care. Okay. But do them both. Okay. The coding assignments, there's going to be a coding assignment virtually every week except for the very end, or except for the first week and except for the very end. Um, the assignment is due on Sunday night at 11:55 p.m. Um, you will we will unlock the solutions, my solutions, at the same time. Okay, so you can start to look at the solutions uh, uh, at, at the very beginning of the next week. Okay, and if you've got questions about why the solutions are what they are, and maybe why what you did isn't what we wanted you to do, sometimes it's obvious. It's like, oh, I just didn't even think of that way. But if you want to discuss it, try to come by the online lab, okay? Or drop us a question on the help desk, okay? Um, I want you guys to be able to. I want you guys to be able to estimate how well you did on an assignment before you get your grade back. Okay? Uh, and I say this in most of my classes because most of my classes are for information practitioners. Okay? You're going to have a group of users who use support. Okay? You're not going to give them some kind of information product and ask them to grade it. When you give it to them, they're going to assume it's correct. Okay? So you have to begin to assess whether your work is correct or not. One of the major roads to this is learning how to test well. Okay, and we talk a lot about how to test in this course. Okay, so you'll get a look at the solutions. I'll publish the solutions right at the end of the week. Within a week or two, we'll give you a grade and feedback. Okay, shouldn't be any surprises though. Okay, you should be able to predict what's coming. All right. Now, I have this interesting deal that I offer in my programming classes. Okay. Sure, you can wait until we've published the solutions and try to do and take inspiration from them and hand in that work. Okay, you don't really learn that much that way. Okay, the way to learn is to try it before you see the solution. So I have a deal that says that if you follow all the procedures, you organize the file that you submit the right way, you name it the right way, and if you hand in your work on time, you meet the deadline for this assignment, and if you show a good faith effort on each part of it to do the job, you'll get an 85. You'll get 10 points for getting the file correct and 75 for the content. Okay, so just do a responsible job and you'll be guaranteed to get an 85 on the weekly coding assignments. If you hand it in late, okay, you can't beat an 84. Okay. So do it on time, do it with good faith, follow all the directions. This is a lot of what we're trying to teach you to do, so these are very important things to do anyway in their own right. Okay? Participation wise, the participation grade is about 5% of your grade. It's going to have to do with these two forum assignments. The one, introduce yourself, that's in week 1, and the other is the next steps. It's in week 10. Okay? And there's some explanation here about how you earn points for that. Okay? Very important to do. The final project, I've already talked about what the final project is. It's just a granddaddy coding assignment. Okay? Number one, it's all based on our knowledge and skills as they've evolved all the way to the end. Okay, so we have to be good at the beginning stuff and the middle stuff and the end stuff in order to do it. It's a little more challenging. We're expecting you to work a little bit more independently. But if you've been following along and you've been building your skills, you should do just fine on the final project. Okay, and we leave 3 weeks at the end for you to work on it. We are willing to help people who've got questions and who get into trouble on the final project. So we have high expectations. Here's the weighting of the grade. 60% of your grade comes from the coding assignments, 35% from the final project, 5% comes from the the participation on the forums, and that adds up to 100. Here we have the mapping between the number grades and the letter grades. And I just want to let you know that this is pretty standard in our department. Okay. And the last section is both uh, humdrum and exciting. Okay. How's it humdrum? Well, this UWM and SOAS academic policies, this should be pretty much the same language it's on every one of your uh, uh, syllabi for a SOAS course. So once you understand these things, well, you understand them. Okay. Okay. So that's how it's humdrum. It's kind of boilerplate. How's it new and exciting? Well, these are all like really important things. Okay. We've got things like uh, we have policies with regard to students with disabilities. Okay. Well, if you think you have a disability, then you want to know about how we're going to help you. Okay. Religious observances. Yeah, if you have some kind of issue like that, then you're going to want to know how we're going to help you. Uh, if you're in the military and you're called to active duty, you want to know how we're going to help you. Uh, Incompletes. It's probably harder to get an incomplete grade at UWM than any other place I've either gone to school or taught. So you may, if you think this applies to you, you may want to read the details. Okay. Discriminatory conduct, such as sexual harassment. We want this to be a safe place to learn and interact with each other. So, our expectations about this are very important to us. And then, of course, academic misconduct. We want to make sure that everybody does their own work. So, you ought to know what our expectations are there. And I'll talk about our expectations with regard to student collaboration in just a minute. And then complaints. Complaints happen, and you should know how to respond to them. So, the department and I are very serious about helping anybody who has some issues or who needs help in any of these areas. So feel free to contact me, and if I can't help you directly, I'll get you in touch with the right person pretty darn quick. Okay, so how independent does your work have to be? Talking about academic misconduct. Uh, um, uh, there are times when I hand out code. Okay. Typically, when I hand out code, at the point that I hand it out, it's okay to copy it. Okay. Um, um, so, for instance, if we have some coordinated assignment, let's say we do part A in week one and part B in week two. And at the end of week one, you find out, oh boy, you got that all wrong. Can you take my code from part A and build upon that um, to make what you're going to hand in part B? Sure, you can. I gave it to you, right? What about other people's code in the class? Don't. Okay. I'm expecting that, apart from things that I give to you, that the code that you submit is going to be yours and yours alone. Okay, so does that mean you can't show each other your code? Uh, well, no, and a little bit yes. Okay. We don't want people publishing entire programs. Okay. So, for instance, on the forums and such, we don't want people to publish their entire program. Um, on the other hand, can you show some code you're having some trouble with and say, does anybody have any ideas? Yeah, sure you can. That's a great way for us all to learn. Likewise, if somebody's having a hard time and they just don't seem to get how some code goes, um, is it okay to post a snippet of your code and kind of say, well, it works kind of like this. This is the key code, and show them a line or two or three or maybe even five? Yeah, that's great. Uh, Post your whole program? No, that's not within the rules. Okay, so we want to be collaborative and help each other, but we want people in general to type the code in themselves and to do the work themselves. At the same time, we want to give the same kind of help that we give to our coworkers. Okay. So, if that's clear, that's great. If you have a kind of question about what the boundaries are on that, just ask us and we'll tell you. Okay, well, I've come to the end of this. This is a fun course for me, and I know that for Julie, it's a fun class for her. We both love to program. We love Python. We realize that you got to get started sometime, and this is the place where we want you to do it. We realize it'll be easier for some and harder for others. We realize that some people are going to need more support than other people are going to need. We realize all these things. It's all okay. We're here to help you. So good luck on all this. Stay in touch, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.